So what do you do when someone on your team is habitually distracted or procrastinating? How do you have that conversation?
Well, it's hard. There's no easy answer because it depends on the person. Like if you've read Lencioni's Ideal Team Player, we talk about that a lot here. Are you dealing with just someone who's a lovable slacker who everybody likes but never actually does anything? Well, there you need to go. You need to deal with it. But one of the things that that I do for people and for myself is I was in a band back in the day, and I learned that I hate practicing. So people are going to listen to this and be like, Luke is just lazy. No. Well, if you know the Enneagram, I'm a 9, and the deadly sin of a 9 is sloth. And so, like, if I'm not careful, I will just go to that place. And so I have to do things to keep myself going. So when I was in the band, I learned I didn't like to practice unless I had a show on Friday night. Well, then I'm practicing a couple times that week, getting ready and getting my brain right in the right spot. So what I've done for myself and for people on the team is I give them a show date. And you could call it a deadline, sure, but sometimes it's not the end of the project. Like the deadline might be in June, but I need to see their ideas earlier, and I feel like they keep pushing it off. So what I'll do is I'll say, hey, why don't you come to branding committee next week on Tuesday and just talk through what it is you've been thinking about. And so just the mere act of having them have a show or some kind of performance gets their brain to like put it together into some kind of slide deck or something, and it just keeps the ball moving. And so give people a thing to perform at, because people are often they'll just put it off if there's no date or there's no something to come perform at. And nobody likes looking stupid in front of a crowd or a group of people. So that's what I've learned to do.
As the human brain likes to achieve something and check it off and have a reason to do things. And it reminds me of the importance of having that mission and vision in place and having role clarity in place and those goals for your team and desired futures in place, because it helps the team understand, oh, I'm not just doing this for busy work.
Yeah.
Like this matters. This is a part of the vision.
Mm-hmm.
So I love that idea of giving them a reason to do it, a reason to show up.
Give them a show they have to perform for.
That's
and
good.
You asked me earlier about the reasons, the common ways you've seen people get distracted from a project. Like I said, if you're putting something out that's good for your business, for the world, something, it's going to have resistance. And so any kind of resistance, any excuse, your brain, I just think, is always looking for these things. It could be anything. The TV show, phones, drama, family troubles, addictions, coworkers, gossip. Like our initial gut level instinct is to not do hard things. And so if you're like, oh, I just don't want to do that, like you're going to see Joe standing over there talking, well, I'm going to go see what he's doing, and say hi to him. You have to combat that with intention.
Yeah. And one of the things that gets me is thinking about how procrastination affects others. How many people are not getting helped because I'm not doing this thing. I'm not putting this thing out in the world. Right. I'm not doing my best. Yeah. And so that really is a great way to make it not about you and about my creativity and my work, but
that's exactly
this matters for people outside of these walls.
Yeah, that's exactly
We talk
right.
about that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So collaboration can be a great thing. And we love to collaborate here at Ramsey. We love a meeting. We love meeting together. We're here, all 1,000 of us plus, in the same building because we love that. We value that. At what point does collaboration become a distraction from getting work done?
If you get the group together and you just talk about the work, like if you're just like, and then there was this problem and then there was this problem. I've had that happen before. You just get together and you don't actually do anything. You just talk about what you should do.
You leave the meeting going, I don't know what happened, but I think we had fun.
Restate the problem a bunch of times, that kind of thing. And so it can be distracting. But overall, I think it's really good as long as like you give time ahead of time or in the meeting for some people to figure out what it is they think, because you have all different kind of personalities. So if you just throw a bunch in the group, you'll have the loud person who talks all the time, or the leader everybody's waiting for them to talk or whatever. So what I like to do is have a little bit of time in the meeting even. Hey, let's just spend 5-10 minutes. Let's answer this question for yourself. And you can write, you can type, you can do whatever to get your answer out. And then, hey, what do you think? And then people can say what they think out loud. And then that's where I think the collaboration actually works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So talk to me about accountability with your team.
Yeah.
How do you make sure they're on track without it seeming like, well, you're just, the hovering art director who's just always watching what you're doing, making sure you're doing it?
Yeah, this one's tough, and I'm trying to be really honest here. Accountability is not easy, and I'm constantly working on it. The accountability, procrastination, those are all really hard things. But part one is for your team, they have to know what the expectations are. If they don't know and you didn't say, hey, on Tuesday when you come to this meeting, here's what I want you to talk about. If you don't say that, they don't know. You have to give them a deadline. Brendan, our CTO here, he has a great talk on accountability. And he's like, that's half the battle is we don't set the expectation of what we want. And so once you set it, that's when you just like have to keep bringing it up. Like people want to know what you want. If you're the leader, they want to know what you want. And so if you set that expectation, let them know, hey, this is what I want by this date, and then hold them to it and say, hey, remember, we got that meeting tomorrow. I'm excited to see what you're going to present. And that's what I do. And this is not a shameless plug, but we use on the creative team, the EntreLeadership dashboard. And so we put all our desired future stuff in there and we look at that thing. If I don't have that stuff written down, like I'm not going to remember exactly what we talked about last week or what we're trying to get to. So we have, hey, by the end of Q2, we want this thing to happen. And these are the 5 things that we need to be doing for the next 6 weeks. And we have them written in that thing and we use it. And it's really helpful. If I don't have that, I'm just floating in the wind. Like I have to have that stuff. So
it reminds me of Donald Miller's quote that our brain craves clarity.
Yeah.
We want that clarity.
Right.
And it also reminds me of the quote, an unspoken expectation is called a thought.
Yeah.
And so we can't do that as leaders. We have to be communicating with our teams, setting the expectations, checking back in, and making it clear for the whole team with something like the desired future dashboard or feedback loops like the weekly report tool inside of Elite to make sure that we have those in place, those systems in place.
It's the easiest example, but man, I thought about getting my wife flowers.
That's nice.
Yeah.
It's a nice thought.
I didn't tell her and I didn't do it, but I thought about it.
You were so
there's
close.
No expectations, so.
That's good. So as we wrap here,
Yeah.
what is your favorite question to ask someone who you think is procrastinating?
I don't have a good answer for this. We might need to
Is
edit
there a
this
magical...
one out. There's no good question. I immediately went to like, what are you doing?
What you doing over there? Just what's going on over there?
Like
what you working on?
I had a designer one time that had to get this. It was a live event workbook done. This was a few years ago, and he had to get this workbook done. And I was out for a couple days or something, and I came back, and I could see on the screen that literally while I was gone for those 2 days, nothing moved forward. Like it wasn't different. And we were walking to lunch, and I was like, hey, it doesn't look like anything's happened. What's going on? And he was just like, he just got overwhelmed with the scope of it. And he just got overwhelmed. So I was like, all right, well, let's just step back and look at what's going on. It's usually not about the work. It's usually about something else going on. So he spent a bunch of time getting his files organized. Like it's always easier to do these simple things like, I think I'm going to clean my office or I'm going to organize my desktop instead of doing the hard work of slugging it out. And you just gotta get in there and start making the thing. So I don't know if there's a good question, but you can't just if I think someone's procrastinating, you can't ignore it. You just gotta you just go, hey man, what's going on? How's it going? And is it going well?
Well, it sounds like it starts with trust in a relationship before it ever turns into the question.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it feels like an attack. But when I know, hey, Luke is for me, he cares about me as a leader, and he's not asking to attack me. He's asking because he wants to know how I'm doing.
Right. This isn't, what are you doing? This is, hey man, how's it going? Is it going all right? Like I'm the leader. I'm not like the slave driver. I'm hey, here's where we need to go. I'm supposed to help you get there. So you're right.
Well, it's just as much on the team to raise their hand to go, hey, I'm stuck. Can you help me get unstuck? Can we get some other people in the room?
Yeah.
And I think that takes a level of maturity, a level of vulnerability, and a level of trust with the leader that it's not going to backfire when they have that conversation.
That's really hard for a team member to do. Somebody said to me one time, hey, Luke, it's much farther from what did they say? It's much farther from their desk to your office than from your office to their desk. So them raising their hand to say, hey, I'm stuck is really, really hard. But you going, hey, how can I help? If you're noticing they're like putting something off, I noticed something's up. Let's go talk about it. What's going on? And that's not, well, you're doing your work. That's, hey, what's going on? Let's figure this out.